Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Deep Thoughts. Today I'm going to do another episode about dreams and sort of the concept that dreams may or may not ever have meaning. It was interesting when I was a kid, you'd have dreams and it was no big deal. And, well, as a matter of fact, this actually gets a little bit weird. When I was a kid, you'd have dreams, you'd have amazing dreams, and the weird thing is that when you sat down at the dinner table at night, people would say, "How was your day?" And you're supposed to recall your day as it relates to your five sense reality. What didn't happen was getting up in the morning, sitting down for breakfast, and someone says, "How were your dreams?" And I think that's weird. Invariably, I always had dreams. But no one ever asked me about them because perhaps they didn't have dreams. And talking about dreams always sort of felt a bit like talking about your privacy, your I don't know, your sexual regiment or whatever. It always had a bizarre thing to it. Now, there's an amazing little correlation with what I'm saying here in my mind with the show, the HBO show Westworld. For those of you who haven't seen it, shame on you. Go subscribe to either Amazon Prime or HBO and get it. Westworld is a show based on Michael Crichton's movie Westworld with Yul Brynner, where they've created this sort of amusement park with a bunch of robots, which they call hosts. You are the guests. You go and live your fantasy out in one of several worlds. The show launched on HBO with the Western world, which is why it's called Westworld, same as the movie. And things go south, relatively soon, but at a nice slow pace. But there's one thing that they wrote into the HBO series that I do not believe was ever in the movie, which is that when a host stares at information that they are not supposed to see, they can't see it. They look at it and someone will say, "Well, what do you think this looks like?" And they'll say, "I don't think it looks like anything." Because in their brain, they've had it blocked, right? Again, according to anthropologists, and our visual cortex has been genetically blocked. There's a genetic blocker that prohibits us from seeing the other 90% of what we could be processing in terms of incoming information. Now, maybe that makes us crazy, but LSD crawls right up your back, goes right over your visual cortex padding, and all of a sudden you can start seeing geometry. It's as if we've been genetically patched not to see it. We're pretty goddamn close to being able to do something like that today, aren't we? Imagine we were just genetically patched, And the families that run the place can see, and that's why they all are related to each other half the time, right? Now, we're all related to each other, but you know what I'm saying. But why isn't it that we don't talk about our dreams on a regular basis? I mean, either I'm the only guy on this whole planet who's having the most incredible, full sensory dreams, and I wouldn't say I've got all five senses, but I've got a bunch of them. As far as touch goes, it's very touchy. Like I'll pick up someone. I was in a dream the other day where I had to pick up a girlfriend and move her from one place to another real quick. She was light as a feather. And I felt like little sort of bumps on my body, nothing like it would really be. I was holding someone in a dream with a lot of people were all laying down. And we were just having a moment and totally felt my body wrapped around this person. Very interesting. But I could have the most incredibly deep emotional realizations and swings inside of a dream, things that would make you cry if I turned them into movies, to the point of like you're laughing your head off because it's the funniest joke ever told in the room, to the best action movie. And what's weird is I feel like I'm bragging about my dreams, and I'm not. I'm simply saying this is what happens to me when I go to bed at night. It's going from one reality to the other reality, and because I'm so aware of it, I distinctly can wake up and go, okay, this is what happens in this reality that doesn't happen in the other reality, and vice versa, right? You get benefits from both realities, right? You can do things in this one you can't do in the other, and vice versa. In this reality, I will say that all of the senses are seemingly exponentially more intense and more vivid. When you go into a dream realm, for me personally, you get more subject freedom. You get to move around. You can control the dream. You can fly. You can even get lucid and start controlling everything about it, right? But I feel like the subject of dreams, when I'll ask, every once in a while, I'll ask some people in the room, in the smoke lounges I go to, and I'll say, if I can get something like that going, or at a barbecue or when smoking cigars, and I'll say, well, do you guys dream? And it's like I'm asking everyone to drop their drawers or something. It's just like everyone's like, oh, I don't get it. It's like the hosts in Westworld saying, I don't think it looks like anything, And yet, I know I'm being a little silly, because there are research facilities around the world that get into this very deeply, But I think my slant on this one is to say we're gonna update some things about what I've realized about my dreaming, just because I'm the only one here. But the other half, I'm going to talk about this notion that people want to find meaning in their dreams, and my particular journey down that path, because it's a definite journey that seems to have very quarantined groups of people that would want to find a meaning in a dream, and people that simply study dreams, and then thus those of us are just people not trying to do much besides share a few notes, right? The first time I ever heard anyone talk about a dream having a meaning was probably in my late teens, when I first moved to California. And someone I worked with would be, in fact, I'm not even sure anybody was talking to me personally. It may have been someone talking to someone else and simply saying, well, you know what that means, right? I'm walking up the conversation. Ice cream man. And what was interesting about the idea that somehow, the idea that you could buy a book, and this is what happened, was I heard this notion, this concept that dreams could have meanings. Okay. Because it's really not in any of the movies I'd ever seen, right? An omen is usually something that happens in this world. A black crow sits on your end of your bed and looks at you. Those are like things that occur to you in the real world. All the superstitions of the world. A black cat walks in front of you, all that kind of crap. But this notion that someone could tell someone else what their dream means is interesting. I know that my dreams mock my reality. Therefore, one could say that dream means that you are having this feeling. That does happen. It does happen. So dreams have meanings, but the ones that I first heard were sort of just like opening a fortune cookie. Well, if you dream of a white horse, that means you're coming into money soon. That kind of shit, right? Now, I shouldn't say it that way, because if you tell people what they want to hear and they can believe it, they'll manifest it, right? They'll attract it to themselves, right? You know what? It sounds like a crime, but it's probably not. The doctors in South America that use all kinds of trickery with chicken parts, and they pretend like they're digging it out of your gut, and they pull it out and they say you're healed. The Skeptic Society guy with the big beard who lives with his Cuban boyfriend, which is really strange because the kid's like way younger than him. I don't even know if this guy is still alive anymore. He went down there and busted all these people in the name of, hey, these are scam artists, they're stealing money from people, and these people are dying as a result of their sicknesses, right? Now, part of you goes, well, no, wait a minute. Yeah, from the at face value, that makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't want someone to scam anyone in the world. But if law of attraction and biofeedback therapy of believing that you have acquired a cure of some sort, or you're being cured over time, and therefore you get into the hot springs of, South America and you grow your pelvis back from having bone cancer, well, who cares how you get it? Who cares? But what happens if you can't mentally cure something out of belief? Well, your only hope at that point is that someone gives you a shot or a pill, or at least convinces you that you're going to have to buy something like that and therefore trade a commodity for it, a piece of gold, some fiat currency. And what are those organizations run by? They're run by crooks. And so it might be one of these things to get rid of even placebo techniques of curing people. I know I just went off the rails there, but it's just interesting. The idea that there's a lookup book that says you dream of this vision, and this vision means this thing, is sort of silly in the realm of it suggests that the God or gods that made this place have this little, I don't know, kind of Nintendo game that goes on. Well, if you see this in your dream, it's a bonus, Billy. Make sure and step on the heart because the unicorn comes out and farts rainbows. So there's the more sort of palm reading version of dream meanings, where they're trying to give you a frequency of law of attraction. And again, if you hear what I'm saying, you're like, fuck you, man. I like that other technique of being told what my dreams are because my palm reader knows how much I'm struggling in life and I want to believe her, and she always tells me what I need to hear that makes me feel positive and I cure myself. I support you 1,000%. 1,000%. But now some folks will go over to psychiatrists or psychologists, and they will sit down and have reflection sessions. They'll talk about their dreams. Freud was really into dreams. And what the scientist will do is try to parse the theme of your dream. What if you're always being chased in your dream? Chase, 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 chase. Well, there's got to be a reason why you're feeling chased. I listen to some of my friends talk about their lives, and, I've got friends who live in hospitals. Not because they're really sick, but because they're hypochondriacs. It's a way to get perhaps a social interaction. I go to a smoke lounge and talk to dudes and a few chicks at these locations, and it's a little social interaction there, right? But I'm constantly meeting people, so I always have plenty of interaction. But, when you need it, you go get it. And some people live in hospitals. They like to call their friends and tell them about the latest illness they have. They don't realize it perhaps, but they're talking about themselves being stressed all the time and how they can't function properly because they're stressed all the time. It becomes this crazy fucking dependency. The endorphin of being in trouble. Some people dig it. They like being in trouble. There's criminals in prisons all around the world, and the biggest bummer for them is that they haven't had that feeling of committing a crime in a really long time. So they'll volunteer to do something really horrible in prison because they just want to be alive. Right? It's a bummer. That's why we got to work harder to create more fulfillment in this world without hurting people. But I can tell you that in my dreams, if I am dealing with an unsolved problem in the real world of a particular subject matter, I will dream that thing in my dream. And it will go from sort of level, it's like a scale from 1 to 10. A slightly frustrating dream is like a level 1 where, it's chill. It's, nothing really intense going on. But what happens is I can never really quite get where I'm going. It's like a labyrinth from the movie Labyrinth. It's just, I can't find the wormed guy to go, hello. Some of you will get that reference. Level 10 is, I haven't had level 10 in a long time. When I was a little kid, I used to have level 10 all the time. Level 10 is very kind of altered states, existential, where I am pretty much the size of perhaps a human cell. And I am incapable of doing much besides having consciousness in this grid of cells that are constantly changing around me. But I have the consciousness of a full-blown soul, but I'm in that primordial first splitting of myself inside my mom, right, or something like that. I know it sounds intense. Level 9 was more terrifying. I'm just going to arbitrarily make these happen because I think 10 was sort of like you're in a Zen-ish level of frustration. And all of these have this bizarre, like level 10. The reason why I put the level 10 and not this next one a level 10, because when you hear this next one, you're like, Jesus, that sounds more like level 10. Is that when you don't have a true wiring to your 5 senses. Imagine like you had 5 wires coming out of yourself that are supposed to plug into sight, sound, all your emotions and what have you. And they're kind of just rubbing against things, and various inputs from this weird thing called a cell is hearing is going into your sight, your sight's going into hearing, and your touch is going into something else. You're not really in any harm's way, you're not in trouble or anything, but you just you can't settle down. It's very disturbing. And when I used to have those dreams, what would happen is I'd be laying in my bed looking at the room, and I have complete, that's my bedroom, it's dark, whatever, it's all purple. And then as I close my eyes, what happened would be, it's like the television would come down to this other reality, and I would be in this other reality. If I open my eyes, I'm back in the room. I close my eyes, I'm back. And I could even just half close my eyes, and the upper half where my lid is would be in this weird world. And it was like, it's a bizarre experience. I haven't had that in a really long time. And as a child, I could not, for the life of me, explain what was going on. And it was only as I got older that I was able to parse it a couple of times when I felt it happening. Nowadays, if it starts to happen, I wake back up, turn the light on, read a book, and just shake it out of my system. It's really bizarre, But level 9, when I was a kid, was very personal. It was one of them when I had to watch a lot of Star Trek as a child, which probably maimed my brain a little bit. It was just way more intense. And I'm talking 2, 3, 4 years old. It was intense for me to try to figure out why Captain Kirk is fighting a lizard in Apple Valley. It was just bizarre. But the sets were always strange, weren't they? They always looked like these clinical sets, polished cement floors. You could see the fact that the walls have space on the bottom, like someone just wheeled it in the room. And as a child, I don't know anything about special effects or sound studios, but I can tell this is fake because I know what my house looks like. And so my brain, I don't know what age, 3, 4, 5, somewhere in there, it created this room where I was standing on a clean slab floor, kind of dimly lit like Captain Kirk's quarters when they want to make it look sexy. And I've got at least 4 posts, kind of like a soccer ring around me. There's probably more. It's probably some bizarre shape. But every about 2 or 3 inches up is a tight, thinned wire. A bit like the wires you would find in those oil lamps you hang in your corners in the 70s. And they're up about every 3 inches or so. Boom, 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 boom. As far as I can see. The bottom, maybe it's like 6 inches off the ground, the first one. And there are these beads hanging like an obelisk. No, like a abacus, one of those things, where they're perfectly spaced out and they don't move. They're like maybe every 3 inches on these wires. Actually, I think I had one where they were packed, so like the scoring system when you play pool. And all I can hear is my dad's voice, and I can see through the wires. The room is much bigger than I'm in. It's probably 20 by 30, and I'm in like a 10 by 12 thing, maybe. I was a teeny kid, so who knows? Maybe it was a little tiny thing. But he's telling me to come with him. Come on, man, let's go. We gotta go. And he's got his voice going. My dad was military, so you can imagine where that might have come from. But I can't get out of this place. And the second I try, I break a string and all these beads hit the ground. And now I'm in trouble. My dad's getting more angry. And I can't get out of this fucking thing, But it never was a nightmare. I've got episodes where I talk about my nightmares. Those are different. Them's is fighting dreams, right? Where eventually, just to kind of recap for those of you who never heard it before, I used to have this dream where there's a mannequin used to terrify me. When I first saw a mannequin without a head, it was the cut neck thing, very popular in the 70s. I think that horrified me a little bit because I had one. They pinned me down in the bed, put the comforter up to my neck, and covered my bed with a porcelain train. I mean, fuck, I'm like 2 or 3 years old doing this. My room is all ornate and amazing, but this mannequin woman is hitting my bed with her weird hand and going, get out of bed, get out of bed. So I'm trying to get out, but I'm underneath the sheet. As soon as I move the sheet or this comforter, it's knocking over these big, clunky, beautiful, ornate pottery train pieces, and then she's yelling at me because I'm breaking the train. And I went on for probably between the age of 3 and 7, somewhere in there. But at 7, I just said, fuck this, man. I'm not going to put up with this shit anymore. And I threw the blanket off and flew it on top of her and sort of stomped on her and everything. And then I went around the corner, and Wonder Woman was sitting in this side bathroom that I didn't actually have in real life, but my parents had a master bedroom. They had a side bedroom. I thought that was so cool. I didn't realize you could have more than one bathroom in a home. Then I sat in her lap, and she's looking hot as hell. And then her head falls out of her hair, and there's the neck, and it's like the end of a scary Twilight Zone. All I hear is this crazy laugh. But still, I was like, yeah, all right. That freaked me out at the end. Touche, but I'm done with your shit. This dream ended, which is why I didn't attack you a second time. And from that point in the real world, I was stronger. I wasn't going to put up with anyone's bullshit, right? To the best of my ability. And it worked. I saw her again once when I was 11 or 12 years old. And we had just a fucking brawl at my cousin's house in a dream. Because I was sleeping at his house. I mean, it's weird, right? So I mentioned that little digression because we do get disturbed by things and we get pleased by things, and it affects the overall story arc of our dreams. So, but now that's a mechanical premise, a mechanical cause and effect in your dream, and it may not really mean anything. Someone could say, well, you know what that means. And I go, what? And they say, well, you're stressed in real life. That's why you're having your stress dream. 1 through 10. I guess you're right. But that's not really what we would call a meaning, right? It's a cause of a mechanical thing. But maybe it is what meaning means. But what other people are trying to do is incorporate fortune telling. They're trying to incorporate future events. There are these folks that have books, and I went to the bookstore probably in the late 80s, when I really started getting into dream research books. It's when I realized there were dream clinics in colleges. In colleges, they want to know what dreams are on a mechanical, biological level. And you get a lot of disinformation about this stuff. The whole REM stage of sleeping, right? REM is random eye movement, and it's always in Star Trek series, Star Trek episodes back in the day. And, you'll see it all the time in shows where I think even Stranger Things had it, where they zoom in on a character's face and the eyelids are going back and forth. These directors think it's so fucking profound these days. And they'd be like, it's a REM, it's random eye movement. When they first postulated the theory that all of your true mental rest occurs during delta phases, which is when you pass out of REM, but all your dreams occur during the REM stage. They made a lot of sci-fi episodes about it, even films that incorporated this idea. I know that's not true, right? Like I said all the time, and you're probably tired of hearing it. I dream in real time. So this morning when I was dreaming, I had to get up to go to a meeting. And, I put my alarm just like you, a little bit ahead of time, so I can have like 15 minutes of kind of getting up and snoozing a little bit, get my reality going, check my phone, whatever. And this morning I was I've had now for about 4 days straight the most bizarre series of dreams, which is why I'm making this episode today, where I've got this place, and it is architecturally the same place, and I keep going to sleep at night without doing anything special, except for I'm going there right now, But even when I say I'm going there, I've got this hallway that's a part of the structure that this world takes place in, and I just keep going back. But this morning I woke up and set my alarm 5 minutes early, 5 minutes, from 5 minute snooze basically. And I rolled over and closed my eyes and boom, the alarm's going off again. But I realized I had a 5 minute, in fact, it wasn't even 5 minutes. It was probably just a quick little, fall back into that realm, messed around very quickly, and then pow, it's 5 minutes later. Okay. But now how could dreams have meanings? What do we mean by meaning? Now, we're obviously plugged into the universe, as I lament in many, many episodes. So the idea is that maybe there is more going on than meets the eye, of course, right? We don't know exactly where we are. We don't know if we have a creator or not. Most of us, I think, have a hunch about that. Every premonition I've ever had has been when I was completely awake. Huge, huge things. Even verbalizing it once to a housewife, and then the event occurs. Verbalizing it the night before 9/11, telling my girlfriend I think something horrible is about to happen, and it's going to involve planes. I didn't say planes hitting buildings. I saw 2 commercial jumbo jets fly in opposite directions in a fully lit room with a white ceiling. The second after I said, I feel like something really horrible is about to happen, and I saw 2 planes do this. They went, whew, like this, just right above the ceiling where I was. The night before 9/11. How? Right? I do explain it in my time travel episode. But the idea is sort of romantic. One goes to sleep. And again, like I always say, always ask yourself, why do we have to sleep? Why do we have a biological clock? The standard answer for millennia has been, because you're tired. Of course you've got to go to sleep. Can't you feel yourself getting tired? No, I'm like, yeah, but why am I getting tired? If I sat on my ass all day, there's those days one day a year, you got the day off. You're not surrounded by your kids or your wife or your husband. You got the day off to yourself, and you just sit around and you're a lazy MFer. So why are you tired in 12 hours usually, right? When you finally drag your ass out of bed. Why are you tired at the same exact time? You just goofed off all day. Your body This will be a day when you're not sick, you have no injuries, you're not that old. Well, what do you got to do? Like they'll say that you have to go to sleep to file away your long-term memory, the long-term memory data bank cache buffer that you've acquired all day. Oh, really? What fucking scientist figured that one out, right? Oh, what did you do? Did you map the subconscious and the conscious together like little electrons, and you watch this little data packet transfer happen? You watch the backup drive going? No, they made that shit up. It's a hunch. And hey, I have no problem with hunches, okay? That's what this whole show is, right? It's a hunch. But it's funny how you have that passed around because it's dismissive, right? A bad theory, unchallenged, becomes a solution, becomes disinformation, becomes the mechanism by which you close your mind and you never open it back up again. I don't know how you can get any worse than that for society, right? So in my opinion, if you work your ass off on a construction site all day, you're working around the house a lot, you're fixing your car, you're vacuuming, you're cleaning, sorting out the pantry, the tool chest, or whatever, yeah, at night, your body should just go poof, back right into that bed. Potentially. I mean, I could rationalize that one. But if you sit around, sometimes you'll be on vacation. You got 2 days. You get up, you take a shower, you feel totally awake, you feel wonderful, you put your shorts on, your sandals on, your flip-flops or whatever the hell, put a top on if you're a girl, grab your towel, you go down to the beach, the pool, and you do nothing all day. And the sun will heat you up and that'll make you a little bit tired, but in the end, your brain has this rhythm. And so we're also made out of all this double helix stuff, like I always say. Okay. The reason why I'm going on about this is it seems like there's a design intent in us having to sleep. Everything sleeps. We're wondering where we are. Well, if our operating system continually gets updated, then perhaps there's something that's bigger going on. Meaning, I have extremely vivid dreams. I'll meet Prince in a dream and hang out with him all night long. I will make music with that guy. I had a last Prince dream I had, which I didn't have a ton when he was alive, a couple. But we're in a studio together. There's other people. It was like a normal day, like he's got his engineers and his other musicians in there, but we are hanging out. This is not a day where he's going to be pounding out an album. And he's sort of there as a friend, and he just says to me, he looks just like the badass dude he is, and he's like, bigger than life kind of guy. He's sitting there with the guitar, and he's kind of looking at me, and he's like, well, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know, I'm trying to make some music, man, or I'll try to help you make something because you don't need any help. He goes, okay, well, I'm working on a bunch of shit. Let me just play a few things I got working in the vault here, and you see if you can do something with it. Sing to it, put another instrument on it, see if you can get me over the hump of where this could go. And he plays this amazing beat, and he starts playing the guitar on it, and I'm just like, God damn. First, I'm just stunned. I'm just stunned at the amazing nature of this music. Another dream I had was being at Paisley Park after he died, and there's a sound engineer in there going, well, we got a bunch of songs we're going to release that are fully complete Prince songs. Some songs that need to be polished, where we got all of his lyrics and everything, and his various tracks we have to clean up to figure out kind of how he would have finished the arrangement of this. But he goes, we have more tracks of just beats and grooves. And so we're not sure what to do with just beats and grooves. So he starts playing me this beat and groove. And I started singing to it. And, of course, the one weird thing that happens in dreams for me personally is if I sing, to me, it is like godly. I mean, it is like angels singing. It is something so divine and so perfect. When I sing in a dream, it's a weird thing. I never sing in a dream and it's like, well, that was bad. I'm out of tune, or what am I singing? What are these lyrics? What is this melody? It's never that. It's always like an 11 to a 20 on a scale of 1 to 10. But the meaning model sort of implies a bit of sort of a dream astrology, right? Astrology really insinuates, and hey, I haven't had any success with this. I don't know anyone who has. I have people that say they believe in it, but then when I ask them why they believe in it and what are the huge proof positives, they don't really have anything for me. It's always a bummer. Why can't I find some, some person with like 160 IQ that tell me how astrology works, right? But it would seem that if there's a meaning model, then the universe has some sort of ecosystem of sort of inspirational decoding, or even forget inspirational. Sorry, that's probably the wrong emphasis. We have these. It implies that the universe is giving us messages to figure out ourselves. Well, if you dream of this, then it's the universe saying, maybe when you wake up, you should kiss your loved one. If you dream of this, that means you need to take your life more seriously, or whatever. Go take a bath, go wash your car, whatever, right? I had a book. I probably donated it because I've donated a ton of my books in the last 5 years because I just got too many. But it was full of a bunch of meanings, and it was like a dictionary. You just looked up objects, and it gave you the meaning of that object. And I thought, well, that's really weird. How could you possibly create a noun-based book, because that's what it was, everything was a noun in there, and simply say, if you see a tree, it's maybe, I'm making this up, okay, maybe it's a sign of wisdom. A tree, it lives for a long time, it sees mankind come and go. If a tree's 1,000 years old, criminy, there's with Joshua trees that are supposed to be 4,500 years old. They're 2,000 years older, or 2,500 years older than the fabled Christ of Titus Flavius, who really lived in Christ's time. It's amazing, right? According to the revised history of Egypt, you're talking about a tree that was born, within 1,000 years of the pyramids being completed. That's pretty amazing, right? It couldn't possibly be, in my opinion, a generic situation of a tree means the same thing to me as it means to you. But that's what these books attempt to do. But now, what else do we say about dreams in most cases? It's built out of your life experiences, right? But then there's this weird wild card that shows up. The Joker card shows up, and that once you can pull the thread out of the sweater in terms of conception. Like I said, when I was 9 years old, I saw a King Kong movie, like the one where he's on the Chrysler building, and then I immediately dreamed of a much smaller King Kong tearing up my neighborhood, like Rampage. Those of you who mentioned Rampage after that episode, you have to know, right when I was saying that, I was thinking about Rampage, which is a video game where you're a bunch of monsters just tearing the crap out of buildings and competing for the most damage. It's a 2-player game, I believe. Long before I saw Close Encounters of the Third Kind, before that was ever made, the toys in my room attacked me as a kid. At specifically 4 years old, 3 and 4, I had these dreams of my toys coming at me on the floor. They never got up over the sheets and onto the bed. By God, they were right there next to my bed. And for me, it was freaking me out. My dad showed me some scary movies when I was a kid. To my knowledge, none of them were toy related. There was a little Tasmanian African doll. If any of you have seen that movie, and I forgot what it was, it's this African warrior statue thing, and it has a necklace on it, and the fable is don't take the necklace off because then he comes alive. And the wife loves the necklace, so she takes it off, and this little son of a bitch runs around the house yelling this little tribal chant, stabbing the shit out of her. She lives in the end, but man, it takes forever to kill this thing. That freaked the shit out of me. But could it be that the creators of the universe have predisposed certain iconic symbols to mean something for all of us? I'm going to say not. So what's left? I mean, I hate to just walk away from it, but think about it. How could I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that's a profound noun in any of my dreams since I remember them all. I don't have I really don't have the same dream people most of the time. There are a certain group of people that I've been dreaming about for the last 4 days that are sweet, wonderful people. My family has been in my dreams, So what I would say is the theme of my world and when I dream is that one, the universe itself will renew randomly, as far as I can tell, such that my mind will create a place. It could be a small city. I will probably consume 4 or 5 city blocks. Some have really tall skyscrapers I'm involved in where I'll go up 50 stories, if not higher, to some really cool office space that's up there. Sometimes, recently, my dreams have been inside buildings that are about 3 to 4 stories high, like sort of a big high school back in the old days when they built them up and not flat. The people are just wonderful and warm. Everyone means everyone well. It seems like we're always productive. We're always kind of doing something, but I couldn't tell you what it was. It's like we always have to go from one place to another. Well, it's time to go over there. Okay, everybody, let's go. You want to use your car? Okay, yeah, sure. And the car comes with its own difficulties sometimes. I'm trying to find some common denominator between people that don't dream and people that do dream. And it's not necessarily, because there's 2 common denominators you could have that, in my opinion, you could get to. One of the common denominators relates to why you don't dream. I mean, you probably are dreaming, but you just don't remember it. I dearly hope that's the case. The second would be, what would be the ramification if you didn't dream? Now, in the Star Trek episode, I think there's a couple where REM sleep's not happening. I want to say it was Janeway, but then again, I remember Riker having the problems. Maybe it was Next Generation. I think it was the one where Janeway had an aliens on board her ship, and they were in some frequency that couldn't be visualized, and they were messing with everyone. But Riker was the one that had the dream where he was on a table. So I guess it was Next Generation, where he kept having like pains in his body, pains in his temple, and it's because they had devices hooked up to their bodies, penetrating their bodies. One person seemed to have their leg cut off and reattached. I mean, it was like, because the doctor figured that out. So they weren't quite dreaming. Something real was happening to them, right? But the ramification that they implied during this episode is if you don't REM, you don't have random eye movement, which is a very short period of your dream stage according to dream clinics. And, you got to believe them. They're watching people and they videotape and compare notes across the world. That you simply don't wake up with any sense of feeling rested. Some people sleep really well and they fall asleep very easily. What I have found is the people that fall asleep very easily tend to be the people that do not dream. And I know this from having girlfriends, right? I do not fall asleep easily. My brain absolutely never shuts down. It is a curse I've had since I think I had just moved to Derby, Kansas as a kid. I was 9 years old. I was having a lot of growing pains. Again, I grew very quickly as a child. My legs hurt, my arms hurt. It was like everything was hurting. And so that was part of why getting to sleep was tough. But then it was just, I don't know if that kicked off my brain trying to deal with the pain, because, man, I still kind of remember it to this day. The other weird thing that happened when I was a kid was that when I was a little kid, probably from the age of like 7 to, 10, I constantly had athlete's foot, like between my toes. It's just a pain in the butt. I think they had just changed out of cotton socks to polyester socks, and that's when your foot stayed wet all the time. Isn't that gross? But I was just dealing with these things at night, and I think that just may have started kicking my brain off. I hadn't received my encyclopedia my World Encyclopedia until I was in my late 9s, and that's when I really started digging into academia. I mean, up until 9, I had no special anything. I mean, I was a little kid. I had a motorcycle, so big deal. A little bit of, hand-eye coordination there. I played video games really, really well. Like, I'd play adults and kick their asses when I was a little kid. That was pretty fun. By the way, just an utter digression on video games and kicking adults' asses. My father and I used to play this battleship game on the Intellivision, which was not like Battleship, the board game. It was like you had some continents and you would make your destroyer or your aircraft carrier, whatever it was. And there was a point where I clicked the right button and I got this debug mode going, and my ship was black. All the ships were colors, and my ship was black. And I had an infinite range on my ship. And I remember I was stupid and I blew the shit out of my dad's last ship. And so I won the game instead of holding back as an adult and going, holy shit, I got this thing into like debug mode. I got this like infinitely strong ship. It's really funny. Remember, that's the last time my dad ever played me because they just wiped him out. I can't say that any of my friends, I got 2 friends that don't dream that I know of. We talk about it. One is constantly stressed, cannot deal with their career. It greatly inhibits their life. And even though they're constantly in drama, they don't want it. And I got another friend who doesn't dream, and that friend's cool as a cucumber. And I mean, just as relaxed as could be, happy. Maybe he's hiding it on the inside, but I doubt it. But now let's say that there was a mechanism of the gods, like a Zeus type god system, a Greek god system, where there are these nouns that mean things. Well, since we don't have a manual down here, that would mean that these symbols are sort of a hush-hush secret, or it's like a QAnon thing where you got to figure it out. Well, what did you dream about last night? Well, I dreamed about a unicorn taking a crap on an ice cream cone that had sprinkles on it, and then I swam in the ocean until I found a gold coin floating on top of the ocean. Okay. Well, how'd your life go in the next 10 days? Well, I won the lottery and got a great job. I found a $100 bill on the ground. Okay. And then they asked 20 other people who have at least those nouns in their dream, however the scenario goes, and they're like, oh my God, unicorn poop. That means gold coins. That means fortune. Okay. Someone writes that down. Then it goes in this lexicon of things that your dream means. Well, I'm going to say that book hasn't been really printed. As much as I bought a book in the late 80s that sort of had something like that, there's a difference between having that book and having a bunch of people buy it, start analyzing their dreams and realizing, oh my God, I dreamed about, X minus Z equals 1, 2, 3. And I looked it up in the book, and I'll be damned. My whole life went that route. For those of you guys that have played a video game for a day, you played World of Warcraft for a day, you played Command and Conquer for a day, whatever it is you're playing. Then you go to sleep. Could be one of these Clash of Clans games for all you know. But you go to sleep and you start dreaming the mechanism of that game. And it's swapping, like Groundhog Day, the typology of your dream is swapping, I don't know, your job goes into a Clash of Clans thematic game system or a Warcraft game system. And so now you kind of have reality mixed with fantasy, and you're going in this circle where you're trying to solve a problem. There's an interesting piece of advice, which I completely agree with, which is don't go to bed angry, especially at your spouse or your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, your partner in life. I think it's pretty generic. Don't go to bed angry. Why is that? Why is that a saying? Where do we get sayings? Sayings are part of wisdom. Sayings are usually because society has paid a price over and over and over again, and the wisest souls have paid attention to these patterns. And they're trying to give us a little saying to keep us from paying the price. An unresolved issue for me turns into some level of a frustration dream if it's significant enough. I've got techniques in my consciousness realm, the super five sense realm, that I use to make sure I don't go to bed like that as much as possible. Like I've said in several shows, I will talk it out with myself. Where do you think I practice to do these shows? But I'll talk it out. I'll talk it out loud and be like, I'll talk to God, I'll be like, what is the deal? Why am I having this weird angsty feeling in my chest? Is it because I drank some coffee at 10 o'clock at night? Is it the way I wrote something on the internet? Is it something that I said to someone? Why am I feeling this way? And I will tell you, without exaggeration, 9 times out of 10, I can figure out what it is. Maybe even higher. And, at some point you go, okay, all right. Well, that person's asleep right now. I need to really kind of make amends or something, or clarify, or I'll just blow it off and go, okay, well, it's probably best I don't say anything at all. Could be that I just need to not drink coffee late at night, not eat sugar late at night, not eat too many habaneros. But let me go for some low-hanging fruit. It's biological. The amount of times, and I've alluded to this, and I think I've put it on point a couple of times in previous dream episodes, but the amount of times that I drink a lot of water before I go to bed. A friend of mine told me a trick. Maybe for those of you who are struggling to dream, but you used to dream, he told me, he said, look, your brain really functions well when it's hydrated. So if you really, really, really want to dream, make sure you're super hydrated before you go to bed. But what does that cause biologically? It means you have to pee. Okay. The amount of times I've had dreams go south while I have to pee in real life, and I don't know it, I'm asleep, I'm in a dream. Everything will be going great in my dream, and all of a sudden, my body wants me to get up and go take a leak. And I will create what my dream does, and this is what's fascinating about your brain, or wherever these systems come from. It does seem very proprietary to us, right? Is that it will create drama. So intense, I wake up. Okay? I think I shared in episodes going to air soon here that I had a dream where, and I'll go back to that other thing in just a second, but I had the heater turn on in my house, and when your heater turns on, it blows the cold air on you first until the heat gets from the vent to you, and then you feel better. But it was really cold. I think I had my heater down to 67, which means it has to be 65 to turn on, and then it will heat it up to, I think, 68 before it shuts off. And my back of my neck was exposed. I had my hair up, pushed up, and in the dream, it had a zombie nibble at my neck. Its teeth were cold, and that's what the cold air was. And I woke up going, oh. And I immediately felt the cold air on my neck, and I was like, holy shit, my brain just made a zombie bite my neck. Not really bite, but attempt to bite. It was just kind of freaking me out a little bit because of cold air on the back of my neck. I haven't had this happen in a long time, and I would say maybe a year or so. But one of the things that was frustrating with this overhydration thing, and what I do now is I hydrate long before bed, like 3 or 4 hours before bed, get a lot of it out of my system, like you got to go to the restroom right away, get that out of my system, and then I can sleep much better. But my dream would introduce family members or people who are very close to me and create an argument, like a really bad one. Like I'm saying things I would never say. I'm kind of like writing inside of a robot of myself, like being a John Malkovich sort of situation. And I wake up and I'm like, oh, I got to take a leak. And God, I hated that just now, because what happened just now was that I said things to people that I love that I would never, ever say, never, ever think. But my dream was saying, I'm going to do whatever I can to get you up, because this has reached a point of, pain in your bladder, whatever, right? But if I hadn't connected those two, what might have I done? I talked to a psychic or someone who's got that book, and they're like, this means you have problems with your dad, or you have your problems with your girlfriend, or whatever. I just had to take a leak, all right? Talk to psychiatrists, and they're missing the biological connection. They'll go off and earn another year's worth of sessions with you because you're bringing all this juicy Oedipus complex stuff to your psychiatrist. Why a close family member? Probably because it's the fastest way to escalate the situation in a personal way. When I had the thing on my neck, it didn't go after any family member. It simply brought something freaky, probably from, and it was actually kind of funny. It wasn't like a zombie from Walking Dead or most video games. It was like there was one video game that was a zombie like this, but it was, I forgot the zombie game. Somebody made it like 20 years ago, and it was like a zombie wearing a sort of 50s suit. And it was like a funny zombie game. It's 3D. I can't remember. Maybe some of you guys will remember what it was. It's like this episodic kind of 50s mashup zombie game. It was like that kind of guy. So it was kind of funny. But he was a big dude. This thing was like probably 6 feet tall. We're conscious living beings, right? So what I don't understand is when we're awake, we have a very consistent 5-sense system. Meaning this, you wake up and you're in this world, and regardless of your life being different than mine and your challenges being different than mine on a daily basis, your geography is completely different. Some people wake up to bombed out cities. Some people wake up to skyscrapers that reach into the sky, that are pristine and beautiful, opportunity everywhere. But when we go to sleep into a dream, those faculties are very proportional to our own abilities to dream. Again, some people don't dream at all. How's that possible? Why is that? Is there something in their brain? Have they ingested too much fluoride? You know, I have a friend of mine that doesn't dream, and that person does not use fluoridated toothpaste, does not drink aspartame, does not eat GMO very much. I mean, very, very sound diet. Why? In fact, that person, I think, ingests more sugar before they go to bed than any human being I know. So there should be a lot of calorie energy flowing around inside their brain. I used to date someone who had panic attacks. Panic attacks were directly proportional to the amount of sugar this person ate. She would wake up and her chest would be utterly pounding, and I'd wake up and just put my hand on her chest, and I'm always super calm, super low blood pressure, and I would just use this voice and talk her down. I just feel that heart slow down, and then she'd go right back to sleep. But I could tell you, we completely mapped that to sugar intake. But she was smaller as a human being, so her body was making incredible use of the sugar as a calorie energy. But if she didn't work out or spend that energy in some way, it went right to her brain. Now, I'll probably have released an episode called Observed Reality, or Observed Consciousness, before this one. I'll make sure I do these two maybe in like a 2-pack release. And it gets to a point where you start to, if you start to parse your brain, this is actually super important. I did that episode, and after I did the episode, my mechanism to parse my own chronology of a thought process, right, and its physical location and geography in the room with me, it's fascinating how this occurs. So now every day I have a thought, I parse where it's coming from. And this is going to sound a little weird, but right now as I am forming this show, I feel like it's going to sound funny, okay? I feel like the show is in my head. I'm using my memory to paint the chronology of what I want to talk about, and I'm merely scrolling down the image in my brain of what I want to talk about. And it's only writing the next few seconds in front of the dream, and so in front of the vision, right? But I feel like it's inside me right now. I don't know if it's the cigar, I don't know if it's the way the format is, how my brain's working to make a show, but that's where it's geographically located in my brain, in my body, in my consciousness. But as soon as I finish the show, there'll be different times of the day when I feel like a thought approaches me from the outside of my realm of existence, my soul existence. It comes up to me up to my face, and then pushes into me. And if I accept it, I mean, I know it sounds weird, but if you guys can start doing this, maybe you'll start to figure out that thoughts come from places perhaps outside of ourselves, right? What do we talk about when we talk about possession? As much as I think a lot of people go, man, there's no such thing as possession, because possession is an invention of religion, and religions are all fake. Even if you believe that Christ totally existed, you may not accept the Catholic Church's, take on him. The Western version of Christianity versus the Eastern version of Christianity, which is completely different about what everything means. Same events, but they have a completely different take on it. Go study it. What I have found in the last, I want to say last 72 hours of my life. This is how recent this discovery is for me. I don't know, I know this sounds weird, but I am finding that drama is coming from the outside to me. And stability and rational thought is coming from inside me out. Meaning I translate it into words, or translate it into actions and deeds. When I experience drama thoughts, they're extremely visual. It's like someone's going up and showing me a picture and going, doesn't that piss you off? And what I do today is I go, I could see if I bought into your bullshit. Yeah, maybe. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ignore you. I don't really think you're my thought. I think you're coming from somewhere else. And I don't think I want to accept that thought. And you know what's funny? You'll go from, because it'll catch you. And I'm telling you, what I've noticed is there's a siren coming. Just a little footnote. My house is about a half a city block from the local hospital. And so that's why we get sirens. It's not that I live in a super dangerous neighborhood, quite the opposite. But what I find with these more dramatic, influential visions, I could call them, is they come at me like boom, boom, boom. It's like something is trying to rile me up. It's like the asshole on the playground that goes, "You gonna let them do that to you?" And trying to get you all riled up. They want two other people to fight so they can sit and watch and have a good time. There's been a lot of sci-fi shows that have this theme of, and it's part of the reptilian theory that David Icke goes into, but I'm going to mention the movie Branded one more time because I'll probably continue to heartbeat this one once a season at least. The notion of possession is a little bit different in that it's a complete usurpation of your body and mind for their deeds. And so that's when, the Exorcist movie starts to occur. I dearly hope that's a very rare occasion. But one of the definitions I had of the devil after I wrote this book when I was in my late teens, was that the devil's probably not trying to make you do big giant things like run a van into a bunch of people. The devil's probably just whispering in your ear, getting you to do the little things that you shouldn't do. A bunch of little things equal a bunch of bad things, right? It could be just simply distracting you away from your natural talents. It is the little Iago in your ear that tries to make you think that someone's being unfaithful to you or something, right? When they're totally legit. They're not doing anything against you at all or something, right? You have this when you're a little kid, usually when you have your first relationships. But I'll find that, at times there'll be this like little bombardment. And lately I've just been going, no, sorry, get out of my way. Get out of my way. No, you're not a part of me. You have nothing to do with me. Just get away, right? And then what's beautiful is what you were doing before these stupid thoughts might have been pushed at you is that you regain complete composure and control. And you just go about your life. And it goes from being, ooh, I almost got emotional for a split second, and now I'm totally fine. Because I did a conscious rejection of what appears to be and feels to be something external trying to become internal. Your subconscious mind gets validated as existing in modern science and psychology, and maybe it's there, maybe it's not there. But there's this movie called Branded. For any of you who've seen it, you know right where I'm going. Fortunately, a lot of folks haven't seen it. It is a movie, I believe, filmed in Russia. It's sort of an indie movie, but it has a lot of really... There's two things that make it sort of not an indie movie. It has some incredible actors. In fact, the priest from Exorcist, who's actually now old, he was in Dreamscape as well. He's in there as a broker for what appears to be, at first, maybe the devil. It turns into aliens. But also has an incredible budget. Some people looked at the special effects and said, oh, that's proof there's not a big budget behind this. And I'm telling you, they did these aliens exactly the way they should have looked. I don't think they spared any expense whatsoever. They met their target 100%. It's not on point exactly with what I'm talking about, but the way the movie goes, the premise of it is that, and you have to have it set up somehow so you want to go see it, but invisible to our eyes until you can see it, just like They Live. It's sort of alien They Live. Except they don't look gross. These aliens are not some weird, H.R. Giger bladder swimming in the air or something. The aliens are these really interesting, ornate shapes, kind of like balloons that have some organic nature to them. They have beautiful patterns on them. They're pretty. They look like they've been designed. Okay? But their whole goal is they feed on the desires of man. Just the desires of man. They don't feed on the acquisition of the desire. What does that mean? There's one scene in the movie, I'll tell you, that is something that I think about when I think about this sort of, interference pattern. Now, I should say at the same time, there was a Freedom of Information Act request to the United States Intelligence Agency for some paperwork. And according to RT.com, which is a Russian-based news organization, they leaked out, accidentally, or released out, the overall mind control that I've been talking about for years, where cell phone towers are used to manipulate the minds of human beings. Now, people who are familiar with cell phone towers jump in this conversation and go, that's impossible. The frequencies of the brain and the frequencies of these towers are completely different. Okay, a little education on electronics. If you have something that runs on electricity, yes, there's resistors and capacitors and stuff that regulate certain frequencies that are capable in these circuits, but you can change the frequency of usually any radio frequency device to either go really low, medium, or really high. And so they can simply change the power that goes through these systems to affect you. As well, a lot of folks that are so sure about what are in these microchips have no fucking clue what are in these microchips, okay? But the one example I gave in my show probably 2 years ago that I had never seen any documentation talk about Gnostic reality, okay, meaning I dragged it out of the universe as an inventor myself, and the implications of this. Someone could park a van outside your house and hit you with a transmitter and give you, I think they could probably only give you fairly obtuse feelings of panic or calmness or whatever. Again, if they want to create another false flag to the degree of the ones that we've seen, well, I just put a keyword in the old index there, they could either make you feel more terrified to give you more trauma so they can program you more as soon as you turn on the TV to figure out what's going on, or they could make you feel more calm if they're committing a crime that they want you to accept. And because they have a global network of antennas all around the world to facilitate your phone, this could be something that explains why some of us might be noticing various emotional things seem to be coming from an external source. That's a little far-fetched, but, you just got to keep your eyes open for everything. That's what I'm telling you. But Branded has a scene. It's a beautiful cosmetic scene. It's in Russia, in one of these beautiful old towns that's kind of like a, I don't know, it's like, looks like it could be in France, in Paris, in one of these interesting little cobblestone streets. But there's no one else in the street, and there's this woman who's pretty gorgeous, and she has this fat little kid who's like an Augustus Gloom kind of kid from Willy Wonka, the more modern one. And the kid wants an ice cream cone because there's a guy selling the most delicious-looking ice cream cones. And he keeps begging his mother and begging his mother. And, of course, she's looking at her fat kid going, last fucking thing you need is another ice cream cone. But he begs and begs, and he becomes a big pain in the ass, and so she caves in. And he's looking at this ice cream cone. They slow down time, as I remember it, and this thing is attached to the back of his neck. It's like a little tiny balloon at first, literally like a balloon, but it's got a little checker pattern on it. The checker pattern matches the larger alien that's floating above that's going to consume what the boy is about to manufacture, which is desire. And the more he looks at this, that balloon gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It fills up from the bottom of his spine on his neck, right? His vertebrae. It fills up with this desire. And this is what's brilliant about this movie. The second the kid gets the ice cream cone and pulls it up to his mouth, okay, the balloon's reaching its apex of inflation. And as soon as he takes a bite of it, it separates from his neck, and that balloon full of that desire floats up to the mother alien and joins, and it's like, oh, I got some more. It didn't stick around for the consumption of the ice cream because the desire is no longer really there. It's being satiated by the ice cream. Interesting, right? One of the most terrifying notions about possession of an alien that we can't see, as I'm just going to lean on like maybe... I want to say the reptilian theory, but that goes all the way into like full possession and shape-shifting, all this other crap. I don't buy any of that stuff. But if something was feeding off of our desires, feeding off of our incredible emotions, then what would that invisible race attempt to do with man? It would attempt to create as many wars as possible. What kind of wars? You might immediately envision World War III. But you don't want to kill all of your subjects, right? You don't want to kill... You wouldn't buy a bunch of batteries to power something and then hit them all with hammers and destroy them. You wouldn't want to put them in a circuit that eats them up in 2 seconds, so you got to go get more batteries. You keep your batteries around. You're using your batteries. Okay? So maybe the wars we're talking about here are the wars that have to do with the wars between each other. I'm convinced by a particular group of people that you're a racist, and I figured out a way to get offended. Oh, isn't that the name of the game these days, right? You get butthurt, and the more butthurt you get, the more shit you think you're going to get for free because you're extorting behavior out of other people. Well, you offended me. I get something for free, man. What are politicians doing right now who are part of the deep state trying to get out of this problem? They're going around and promising everyone things, but also promising them and telling them how broken they are and how destroyed they are because of somebody else. The haves and the have-nots. They're all trying to be false Robin Hoods. If your dreams are a byproduct of your current thought structure and your current adoption of various paradigms, then I think it's also equally important that you manage the ecosystem of your thoughts. You have to know where they're coming from. Maybe they're inner demons or whatever. Maybe we have this inner child that I've referred to several times in the Freudian, days of yesteryear. Maybe it's just infectious between men. We share thoughts. We do. So if you got a guy that's convinced, you convince one dude that he's been wronged, and he gets with people like himself, because that's what we do in this world. All right. Maybe you can easily infect and indoctrinate the person sitting right next to you to think that they are. Convince one black person that all their problems in life have to do with, things that happened 200 or 300 years ago, that they're living the same life their grandparents lived. And the reason why life is hard is because of all those people are being racist. I'm sure it doesn't help. We know it exists to some degree and everywhere, against everyone, right? If you want to have wonderful dreams, I think you have to balance your life. And I think if you're not having dreams, my advice would be, and this is what I say to my friends, when you go to bed, and if you're a person that just hits that pillow and you're out, this is going to be really hard for you to do because, hey, you're getting hopefully fantastic sleep. Hopefully you get a shit ton better sleep than I get. I get pretty good sleep these days. I mean, I feel wonderful when I wake up after these dreams especially. I feel like I went on a vacation. It's crazy. One of the tricks I had, just to finish up on this note, of trying to incubate dreams if you don't have any, right? Or you used to have them, you don't have them anymore. One of the rules I found, and I think I may have said this a long time ago, which is if I thought of things when I went to bed that were real people in the real world, real situations, I could never go to sleep. Even exciting things. I'm building a piece of electronics, and how the fuck does a multiplexer work again? And and I'm trying to think this thing through. Oh, yeah. And then my brain goes the next thing. Well, now I got the multiplexer fixed out. Let's figure out what we're going to build. And Okay. That keeps me up all night, no matter how tired I am. And then in an hour or so, my body's like, okay, screw it, get up and go do whatever the hell you got to do because I'm not playing this game anymore. But one time I thought of, I think I'd seen Roger the Rabbit way back in the day, which I did not like that movie, but, it's just not my type of film. But I thought about being in that cartoon world because it kind of went in and out of the cartoon world. I think you went in the cartoon world in the end of the film or something. I can barely remember it, but I remember envisioning myself in that cartoon world, and I went right to bed. I remember just falling asleep and thinking, holy crap, once I disengage from real life things that I can get all complex and 5 cents attached to, once I stop trying to attach to 5 cents thoughts, boom, I'm off to sleep. It's crazy. And now, because I have such visual memories of the last 4 days of my life, and it's been going on for months, but this one's been going on for 4 days straight, right now I see the place that I've been going to. And so now when I go to bed, I think about that place. I think about walking down this hallway. And it has nothing to do with this super duper detailed reality. And so my body just goes right to sleep. Hopefully some of you are using this episode to get to sleep. The other one is to think about something that you want to dream about. You may not make it happen, but you might dream of something else. It'd be cool if I was there. Trying to make it 5 cents, right? I just went to Hawaii. Let's dream about being back in Hawaii. Well, you might attach too much to it because it's part of your reality recently. Think of something like Star Wars. You're like, yeah, I'm a big Star Wars fan, let's just say. And so, okay, you're on the Millennium Falcon, you're flying somewhere. You're in a Tatooine, you're doing something. You can't 5 cents Tatooine because you've never been there. Maybe that helps. Let me know in the comments section your experience with this notion of dreams having meanings. Let me know your successes, your failures. Let me know what you think it is. Let me know why you think we go to sleep. I haven't had any of you really comment on that. And please, if you're going to give me the textbook reasons why, you could save your breath, unless the next thing you're going to say is, and this is why I think this is bullshit. Okay? We're here to think about things we never thought about before. To push open more real estate inside our world, our dream house, right? I think you feel me. If you haven't been to deepthoughtsradio.com, please go. There's video, audio, locked Facebook group, and the Patreon page. I am putting out a ton of these things. They say not to do that because you'll oversaturate your market and you'll get fatigue. Again, this show is more like a series of books, and you may not want to read the next volume right now because you're reading the previous one. You may not have the time to continue the book series. Don't worry about it. If a video sits there at 89 views, okay. Either that one wasn't any good, or you'll get back to it when it's a rainy day, you got a real long drive, and you'll just listen to it. For any of you who do use iTunes, I would encourage you guys to get up and do a review if you dig the show, because that'll help us get the word out. Subscriptions, they come and they go. It's really strange. People are getting unsubscribed left and right, so be aware that if you do like the show and you think I haven't made an episode in a long time after this episode, make sure you're still subscribed. The bells get undone. A little footnote for you guys. The QAnon episode was unpublished without me unpublishing it. It was put in unlisted mode. Not sure how that would be possible. I don't go back and visit old videos. Like, I don't go back and edit them and mess with them. As soon as I've moved it into the audio side of things and copied the URL over into the audio feed podcast, I don't touch it anymore at all. Right? So we must be over the target in some of these realms. Anyhow, take care of yourself and someone else, and I'll see you in the next dream called Deep Thoughts. Over now.